Welcome back to this World of Warcraft Let's Play. You're with Sambo, and joining us as always is Seraphis, our Worgen mage. That's right, Worgen, we got transformed. If you were watching our last episode, you'll remember that we got bitten by a Worgen down in the basement, and as such we got transformed into one. And we were roaming the wilds, as you probably remember from the last cutscene in the last episode. We got discovered, trapped, and brought here into the town of Duskhaven. And what you just missed before, by the way, was these NPCs talking here. This guy here, King Genn, who's the royal chemist, he said, "I'm not giving up on you. I don't have a cure for the curse yet, but there are treatments. You will have control again." And then Lord Godfrey here, he... what did he say? He said, "Give it up, Krenin. It's time to put this one down because it's protocol." So he wanted to end our days, so to speak. And then, of course, we have King Greymane here,
will rise again.
who said to Godfrey, "Tell me, those that stayed in Gilneas city so that we could live, were they following protocol?" No, I don't think so. Now, hand me that potion, Krenin, and double the dosage. So it looks like we're about to get some kind of potion. Who knows? Let's carry on with our quest here. Last chance at humanity. I need you to pull through, Seraphis. This dosage is strong enough to kill a horse, but I know you. I know what you're made of, and you'll be fine. Trust me, I know what you're going through. Now drink up and close your eyes. So here we go. And look at that. We're free. Our last chance at humanity quest is completed, and yes folks, that is us as a Worgen. Very cool. I love the Worgen race, love this zone, love everything about it actually. It's a fantastic new area that they've brought in the Cataclysm expansion. And there's all sorts of earthquakes going on, as you can see the screen rocking about there, and that's a very important thing to note, by the way. That'll become a lot obvious later on. Lots of quakes going on. And we can see way off into the distance there, it's a large area. It goes in all directions. There's a big manor up on the hill. If we have a look at the map here, you can see that Duskhaven here is in the center of this peninsula, and we've got coast all around us. Let's make that map mini again. Now, in terms of the Worgen, now we've got a couple of things that are different because, of course, we're not a human anymore. In fact, let me spin this around a bit and get close so you can see. Very cool looking models, I must say. Now, obviously, this is the female Worgen. The male ones look a lot different, a lot more bulked out, etc., etc. But I think we've got a few emotes. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. What do we got? Silly.
I love Darnassus. Trees everywhere.
So you can see that we've got now a different voice than we had as a human.
I get moody during that time of the month. You know, with the full moon and all.
And we sniff and snort our way around.
At least we don't sparkle.
Now that's one of my favourite ones. Not a big fan of the Twilight series, and you can see there's a massive dig at Twilight there.
Yes, I've tried shaving. It doesn't work, trust me. Oh! I don't really know why we do that. The beast in me hungers.
Anyway, you can see that the voices are a lot different and the emotes are different as well. So it's very cool. And oh, there's another earthquake. And I really love the running animations. Everything about it is very awesome. Every now and then we do a front flip as well. Very cool. Now, oh, that's another one. What's the charge emote?
Gilneas will rise again.
Yeah, very cool. Now, don't forget too, folks, that we talked about this in the last episode very briefly. A couple of new racial passives that came up because we're now a Worgen. One of them here increases our resistance to harmful nature and shadow effects by 4. That's called Aberration. We've got our Dark Flight, which activates our true form, increasing the current movement speed by an additional 40% for 10 seconds. That's got a 2-minute countdown, so we'll definitely try that in a minute. We've got Flare, which is our skinning skill increase. So our skinning is increased by 15 and it allows us to skin faster, and we'll show you that because we're definitely going to take skinning as one of our professions. And Viciousness, which increases our critical strike chance by 1%. Now we also have, I think, the option to get a couple of new skills there. There we go. Because we're now level 5, we can get this Fire Blast, and we have to see our trainer to do that. So I'm imagining that there's going to be trainers. In fact, there we go. You can see on the mini-map, Miriam Spellwalker, a mage trainer, is just ahead of us. So let's speak with Lord Godfrey. So, Crennan's potion did not kill you. I suppose that means the human inside of you is in control. That's good. I guess I won't be shooting you after all, at least not yet. Gosh, he's a skeptical old fart, isn't he? Go speak to Crennan Aranus and give him the good news. He's in charge of the house where we keep your kind. Just remember, Seraphis, I've got my eye on you. You so much as try anything funny and you'll get a bullet between the eyes. So, okay, we have to speak to Crennan, and he's up ahead. So here we go, entering for the first time the little sleepy village of Duskhaven. And once again, I just love this. You can see it's raining. We've got the creepy music. We've got the creepy atmosphere. You can see the old manor in the background. And by the way, none of this is just superfluous scenery in the background. Everything that we can see here, we can actually pretty much get to. So, for example, that manor up on the hill and the plains down in front of us there, heading towards the coast, the windmills, everything is accessible. It's one big, huge open world. In fact, pretty much about 95% of the world of Warcraft, pardon the pun, is completely open. It's not instanced. Of course, there are instanced dungeons, etc. But in terms of moving around the place, when you go from one zone to another, you don't, like have to log, load, etc., etc. You just literally run around. It's an absolutely huge open world. It's fantastic. All right, so first things first.
Any friend of Greymane is a friend of mine.
That's handy then, and it's time for us to get our Fire Blast, which is our next mage skill. So let's train that up. You can see now that this trainer has a whole bunch more of skills than the ones that we had in Gilneas City, because we're out in the real world basically now. And you can see we've got Frostbolt, Frost Nova, so they're our frost component, our counterspell utility, our evocation utility, which gives us mana. We've got the famous polymorph spell there, which of course is called sheeping, and that turns any enemy into a sheep to crowd control them. We've got blink, which is one of our travel ability. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. You can see there's heaps and heaps of skills there. Let's train up our Fire Blast. You should see it drop. There it goes, dropping down into our hotbar, and that is an instant spell. Which is great. Can't use it on her, of course, because she's a friendly. But this basically causes low fire damage at medium range, casts instantly, so use while moving, or when an enemy is in melee range. Because, of course, we don't really want to have enemies in melee range of us, because we're a squishy mage. We can, again, only wear cloth, so we don't have that many hit points. You can see there we've got 112 hit points. We've got half the hit points that we have mana. And we don't really have lots of strength or any sort of melee capabilities whatsoever. So we need some spells that are up front. Now I'm going to move these around a little bit. So we'll have our fireball, or rather we've got our wand first, which is our shoot. We've got our fireball, which is our ranged spell. We've also got our arcane missiles, which you would have remembered from our last episode, is also a ranged spell. And we've got the fire blast, which is the melee ability. Now this dark flight, I'm going to pop it up on the top bar here. Let's have a look and see what it does. So here we go, running around at normal speed. If we click this, there we go. You can see that it gives us that speed buff. That's the same buff appears on all classes when they get a speed boost, so you can tell if you're observing exactly what's going on. Now, if we were in human form, and by the way, just in case you were wondering, because a lot of people ask this particular question, well, hey, when do I get to be able to switch between human and Worgen form? Now, it's not, if I remember rightly, no, so it's not listed here. I think it's actually a quest reward that we will get later on. And that's why this skill says activates your true form, because if you're in the human form and you click the dark flight, you actually change into a werewolf to start that run. That's why it says that. But look at the scenery here. I absolutely love it. There's the actual Greymane wall up there. That you can see, well, one of them, early ones anyway, I think there's a number of them. That's the gate heading towards the wall. And then out here, of course, we have the great wild blue yonder, and it's a real opportunity in this zone to see the great artwork, the great texture work, even though, of course, there we go, discovered Gilneas. even though WoW has, again, really low system requirements and therefore pretty basic textures and models, they still manage, well, the art style still manages to convey a really believable and stylized world. It's just absolutely fantastic. And a lot of games have tried to copy this sort of minimalistic style, but as you can see there, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way it looks. The lighting is fantastic, the way that they work their textures to make use of really low polygon environments. In fact, if you were to strip away all the textures from here, it would look pretty basic. But the artwork, and that's done, of course, by Sambonz at Blizzard. He's one of the main sort of resources behind the art style of WoW. This is his style, and it's just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely love it. Anyway, enough gawking. Let's find ourselves the quest that we need to hand in, which of course is Among Humans again. And once again, I can actually just click on the question mark there to bring up whereabouts I need to go, or I can click on the name, and that brings up the actual quest log itself. So it looks like it's inside this building as we hear the harpsichord playing in the background. Very British, very Hammer horror. Here we have, what have we got? The Jack of all trades, profession trainer. We'll go over that in a minute because that's quite important. Namely, a banker. And we have the royal chemist. Now let's have a look at the banker first, because of course everyone wants to know about the bank. This is where we can store all of our items, and of course it's great that there's a bank in this very first area, because we do have a couple of things we want to put in there, namely our collector's edition pet there. We're going to sell that off, we're going to sell the staff, and we're going to sell that off as well. So there's nothing else we need to put in there. You can buy additional space as well. So if we got ourselves another bag, we could put another bag in one of these 7 slots here. So you can have, what do we got, 4 by 3, 6, 8, 4. It's 32 slots there, times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So your banks can be quite big. And of course, it really does depend on the size of the bag that you put in that slot. So you can end up with quite a number of slots for storage if you're a hoarder like me. It's very handy.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. So yeah, very handy that there's a banker there. Let's pick up this quest here, or rather hand it in. It worked. Welcome back, Seraphis. You were fortunate. Krennan's treatment doesn't always work this well on people who've had the curse as long as you. Do exercise caution. Don't expect anyone to invite you into their homes just yet, but at least they won't shoot you outright. So, yes, the effects of the curse cannot be ever fully cured as far as we know. That means we're stuck being a Worgen. Treatment, however, your mind will remain your own and not that of a wild animal. So, I will need Mandrake Essence to brew another batch of my serum for you. You'll find a crate stashed beneath a shed southwest of town. So we have to find that crate. Let's just quickly hop upstairs, because I'm pretty sure there was someone up here. No, I was not sure at all after all that. How's that? Right, now, this guy here, the Jack of all trades profession trainer, this was something that was bought in, I'm pretty sure it was bought in with the Cataclysm, and rather than having a bunch of separate trainers, this guy here offers a whole raft of things, and he offers both the gathering professions and the production professions, and this is really, really handy. And as he says here, I can teach you the basics of any gathering or production profession, but that's all. To learn more than an apprentice skills, you need to visit a specialist dedicated to only one profession. So that's a really key point there. Because we're still in a newbie area, they brought these NPCs in so that everyone can learn whatever they like right up front, but they only take the skill to a certain level, and after that you have to go into a major city or wherever there are specialist trainers in order to actually start leveling up in terms of especially your production and gathering skills. Because dotted around the world, for example, will be a skinning trainer and a mining trainer and a tailoring trainer, etc., etc. Whereas this guy, like his name says, is kind of a jack of all trades. Now, let's see what he's got. So we've got gathering and production professions. So let's take a moment quickly to check these out. So we can go to our spell book, which of course is the P key. Go to the professions, and here we go. You can see how it's all split out. So from the top, we've got a first profession and a second profession. Now, these are major production professions. So things like tailoring, alchemy, weaponsmithing, armor crafting, all those sort of things that actually make goods. And you can only ever have 2 of them at a time. So, for example, you could take tailoring and enchanting. However, down the bottom here, you'll see we've got gathering professions. So we've got fishing, cooking, First aid, which isn't strictly a gathering profession, but first aid, as it says here, lets you turn cloth into bandages for healing yourself and others. And I highly recommend that you take first aid because, you know, later on in the game, being able to make really powerful bandages can mean the difference between life and death. Gosh, I'm tongue-tied this evening. I really need more sleep. Cooking is the same thing. Cooking actually allows you to learn recipes to create food, and those food items that you make, again, really powerful in the late end game. They allow you to create food that heals you out of combat and also give you buffs, and that's the main reason you take cooking. For example, I know on my level 85 characters I've got a maxed out cook, and you know, for example, you can create, now she's a tank, you can create food specifically that increases your stamina or your hit count or something like that. Very, very handy, and of course you can give them to all of the members of your party or raid. So another great thing to take. Fishing. Now I happen to absolutely love fishing, so you're going to have to put up with a little bit of fishing in this Let's Play, and yes, it is exactly what it says. You literally go to any body of water, or pretty much any body of water, and cast your rod and catch fish. And let alone all the hundreds of achievements that are associated with fishing, you can also pick up items, obviously, for cooking, because every fish that you bring up, you can cook. And some cooking recipes require specific fish that you can only get, obviously, through the fishing skill. You can also pick up other items out of the water, and again, there's lots of achievements for getting things that are not fish. And as it says there, fish can be cooked into delicious meals with the cooking skill, so I highly recommend taking that. And archaeology, now this one was recently added in the Cataclysm patch. And it says, visit a trainer to learn archaeology. Archaeology allows you to discover valuable treasures and learn ancient lore of the world. Now, unless things have changed since I last logged in, I don't think you can actually learn archaeology until you're level 20, but it's a brand new profession. And again, it doesn't count, all of these do not count towards your first or second profession. So whereby you can only choose 2 of your main production professions, and again you can change them throughout the game, but of course you return to 0. So for example, if we'd leveled ourselves up to, I don't know, you know, level 300 in cooking, rather in tailoring as a primary profession, and then we wanted to shift that to, say, mining or you know, alchemy or something like that. If we dropped the tailoring at level 300, then we'd be straight back to level 1 at alchemy, for example. And if we ever wanted to go back to tailoring, we would have to start from scratch again. So be very careful when you change your professions, and be careful when you choose your first 2. But as for these 4 down the bottom, they're free, they don't affect the top 2, and I highly recommend it, especially as ways of getting money as well early on in the game. So let's have a chat with this guy, see what he has to say, tell me about the gathering professions. And here we go, you can see that we've got herbalism, mining, skinning. If we go to the production professions, we've got alchemy, blacksmithing, enchanting, engineering, inscription, jewel crafting, leatherworking, and tailoring. So there's a whole bunch there. Very, very briefly, I'll go over them. Alchemy is potions, blacksmithing is weapons and also armor, and you get to split off into a speciality later on. Enchanting is exactly what it says. Basically, you enchant items, magically enchant items, and you use dusts and powders and things like that, and it gives items extra stats. So for example, if we have a look at my, here we go, the time-worn staff, you see it's a white item. If I wanted to, I could enchant that item, and that would give it, for example, maybe, you know, +3 intellect or something like that. That's how enchanting works. With enchanting, you can also disenchant items into crafting materials, so DE them or break them down. Very handy. Engineering, a very, very cool profession, engineering. You can make, it's gnome or dwarven based, and basically you, oh sorry, not gnome or dwarven, it's gnome or, what's the other, goblin or gnome in engineering. Gosh, that's terrible of me. And what it is it makes a whole lot of useful utility items, and they can be items that you wear, items that you use, items that others use. For example, at the very high end of the engineering skill, you can make things like a portable bank or a repair bot or a flying machine and things like that. Really, really cool stuff. Lots of toys and gadgets. It's a very hard profession to level up, but very worthwhile at the end of the day. All sorts of useful utility items to make your life in WoW easier. Inscription is a relatively new profession, and inscription allows you to create scrolls. It also allows you to create glyphs. Now, I can't show you glyphs, I don't think. Let me have a look here. No, I can't because it hasn't opened up yet, but glyphs, no. Glyphs are sort of, well, actually, we won't bother talking about glyphs because we can't use them yet, but they're basically something that you can use to slot things in that give you extra abilities and stats, and there's a special interface for that. We'll go through that when we get there. Jewel crafting, as it says, it's pretty obvious. You make rings and trinkets and necklaces and things like that, and they are useful for adding stats to items. You know, for example, you may be able to make a unique type of ring that's only available through jewel crafting and only able to be equipped, or rather not only equipped, but you can only add to its stats if you have jewel crafting the skill. So for example, let's say I was to get from the auction house a scroll that added, you know, I don't know, stamina or something like that. If you are having jewel crafting as a profession, you may have the ability to be able to add enchants to your rings, whereas the rest of us can't. Little things like that. Leatherworking is what it says. Leatherworking allows you to actually create leather clothes and something else. I can't remember now. It's been so long. But mainly clothes for rogues, etc., druids, any leather-wearing class. Tailoring is exactly what it means. Making, well, pretty much the things that we've got on now. So, for example, this Gilnean apprentice's robe, which is cloth, that's tailoring. Tailoring makes cloth stuff. Let's have a look at the gathering professions. So we've got mining, skinning, and herbalism. Now, when you choose one of these gathering, as it says here, gathering professions allow you to acquire raw materials used by production professions. So gathering herbs, mining ore, stone, and jewels, or skinning beasts for their hides. So you can either support a related production profession with gathering, or simply sell the raw materials on the auction house. So for example, because we had, if you remember back in here, we've got this racial called Flayer, skinning skill increased by 15, and allows you to skin faster. We are definitely going to take skinning.
I got a bad feeling.
Excuse me, losing my voice. Because we're going to be killing a lot of animals that are going to be able to be skinned. And we're not going to use that leather, because of course we get leather from skinning. We would have to be a leather worker for that. But instead what I'm going to do is basically use that to sell on the auction house, and that will get us a whole lot of money. It's a great way of getting income. So tell me about skinning. And it says here, skinning allows you to remove and prepare the hides from slain creatures. These can be sold at the auction house or used to support the leather working profession. And we also become masters of anatomy, which is a buff we'll get later on as we level up our skinning, and that increases our chance to critically hit a target. And like it says there, we'll need a skinning knife in order to skin creatures, and this can be purchased from trade or leather working vendors. So let's train ourselves in skinning. Here we go, apprentice skinner. Train that up. You may only know 2 professions at one time. Would you like to learn skinning as your first one? Yes, we would. Alright, so there we go. We've now gained the skinning skill, and if we look in our professions window, you'll see now that the interface has slightly changed. As the earthquake rumbles in the background, you can see that we are 16 of 90. Now, if you're going to say to me, hey, how come we're 16? Once again, remember we've got this passive here which automatically increases our skinning skill by 15, and the default skill is 1. So 15 and 1 means that we're 16 already. We haven't had to level that up. And we get this ability here, skinning, basics of how to skin an animal for their pelts and furs, and it gives a potential skinning skill of 75, requires a skinning knife. Now, there's nothing we need to do apart from have a skinning knife in our backpack, and that will allow us to skin. We'll get a special icon when we hover over a corpse. And as you'll see, that doesn't count as a sub profession here. It's actually a main profession. So let's have a look now at our second profession.
Story?
If I was doing things, by the way, here's the skinning trainer. We can see we're 16 out of 90 here. And he's got no other levels of skinning that he can train us. But actually, hopefully we can sell. Can we sell anything? I'm not sure. No, we can't sell our items to him, unfortunately. Let's have a look at our other profession. If we were doing things by the book, I guess what we would do is now take a production skill, and we would do something like leather working to use the leather and pelts that we actually will get from skinning. But like I said, we're not going to do that. We're not actually interested in any production things at the moment. We're not interested in tailoring because we're not interested in making any clothes for ourselves. The ones that we get throughout leveling are good enough for now. Instead, what I'm interested in is making money. So I want to take another gathering profession so that we can sell them on the auction house. And the choices are herbalism or mining. Now, obviously, herbalism, herbs are used by alchemists to make potions. And mining is, where we actually take mine nodes from around the world and we mine ore and gems and stuff like that from them. Both fetch a relatively high price on the auction house. Gosh, I am so tongue-tied. I don't know why. And it really is up to you as to which one you prefer. I mean, herbalism, you're basically gathering plants from around the world. You just randomly see them. You'll get a herb tracker and you'll be able to see where they are on the minimap. Mines are a little more fought for and they are a little less populous around the world as far as I can tell, or as far as I remember. But you do get, I think, a slightly better price for the stuff on the auction house. And once we learn mining, I think we also learn smelting, so we can turn those raw materials into iron ingots. So let's take mining for now. So train me in mining. Here we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to take apprentice miner. You may only learn 2 professions. Would you like to learn mining as your second one? Yes, we would. And there we go. We now have mining. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to be able to do these other skills here later on. So as you can see, we can smelt bronze, smelt tin, and smelt silver. And that turns them into a bar. So that will, smelting silver skill will turn the raw silver that we mine up out of the earth, out of the world, into silver bars, or tin bars if it's tin, and bronze bars if it's bronze, of course. And they're available when we get our actual skill up to 65, and it's 1 out of 75 at the moment. But if we go in and look at our professions now, you'll see that we also have mining, and we have this smelting ability here. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw that on our hotbar. And the smelting, it allows the miner to turn ore into metal bars, and this skill requires a forge. If I click on it, we get the profession interface come up. And you can see here that I'm going to end up with this list of things, and they are the things that we saw before at the trainer. So we've got smelt copper at the moment. We're going to have smelt tin and silver and all the rest of it, and bronze. And there we go. You can see that if we were to do this, if we were to create this, if we had 1 copper ore, which is what we need, and by the way, that's what we're going to dig up out of the ground when we go mining. It'll be copper ore, especially in these early levels. I think the only ore pretty much is copper. The odd bit of bronze lays around. And if we actually were to create that, if we had a copper ore and we were standing next to a forge, we would be able to make a copper bar. Now, this is where my auctioneer add-on comes in really handy, because this is a production item here that we will be making later on. You can see that its sell price to a vendor is 10 copper, but you can see I've got a whole bunch of stuff down the bottom of that tooltip there, which shows me the market price, and that takes its pricing live from the auction house. So they are actual real market prices in this particular realm, the realm that I'm playing on, and it shows what the suggested minimum and maximum bid and buyout prices should be, and effectively what I should expect to get for 1 bar. And you can see there, doing it through the auction house is absolutely fantastic, because where I'd get 10 copper for a vendor to buy this off me, I would actually get around about 35 silver off a auction house sale. And just so you know, 100 silver equals 1 gold in this game as well. And it also has a handy tooltip there, class trade goods, and it's used for blacksmithing, engineering, jewel crafting, leatherworking, and mining. So all those other professions can use this entity that I make here, this resource. So it's very cool. Now what we want to do, of course, is make sure that we find a vendor, because we need to get ourselves a skinning knife and a mining pick. And it's, trust me, you will forget about it if you forget and you get out into the world and you try and skin something, or you try and mine an ore node, you will be stumped because you don't have the right tool. So we're just going to wander around. Oh, there's a mailbox by the looks of things. Yep, don't think we've got any more mail. Some signposts showing us, there we go, Queen's Gate, Wild Cottage, and the Haywood Fishery. Hopefully somewhere around we're going to have somewhere where we can buy something. What have we got? An innkeeper. Oh, this is something else we need to explain. The innkeepers. Now, we are in an inn now, and let me show you a couple of things that are very important about this. Firstly, have a look up at our portrait here, and you can see that it has our name, it has our picture, and it has our level there, right? Now, watch as I walk into the inn. Watch up the top here, and there you go. See, it's flashing now. So that the portrait is flashing and I have a ZZZ sleep symbol under my portrait. That means I am now in an inn and I am resting. Wow. Now, what is resting? Resting in an inn, it achieves a couple of things. Firstly, if I went to log out of the game now, so let's go, I'm not going to do it, but if I went log out, there would be no countdown. It wouldn't take 20 seconds for me to log out. You can log straight out of an inn. So it always pays to park yourself in an inn before you log out because it's a lot faster. Most importantly, if you hover down here over your XP bar, you'll notice that there's a little pip at the end. You probably can't see it on the YouTube video, but there's a difference, there's a gap between the end of my XP bar and between this little pip over here, and there's a bit of grayed out XP in the middle. If you hover over here, you'll see that it talks about rested experience, and basically if we are in an inn, we start gathering rested XP, and that's the bit on the end there, and I think you can only ever have 2 full levels of rested XP banked up. But what it means is that once you come back and play the game, obviously if you log out in an inn and come back the next day, you'll have been 24 hours in the inn, and this XP rested portion here will have built up. And every time you gain XP when you kill monsters out in the world from that point on, you actually get double, 200%. And you can see it saying there on the tooltip, currently we're rested and we're gaining experience at a rate of 200% from monsters. And it does say the color of the XP bar indicates your rest state. Light blue for rested, which is what we are now. Purple for normal. Rested players earn twice the experience they would normally gain from slaying a monster, and characters become less rested when they kill monsters and more rested by spending time at or logging out at an inn or a city. So it really does pay to log out at an inn and get as much rested XP as possible, because of course you're basically leveling up twice as fast when you go back out into the world. Now, as you see, we can speak to this innkeeper, and she's saying, do you want to make Duskhaven your new home? Okay, so what is all this about? What it's about is your hearthstone. You can see I've got my hearthstone. Well, it's actually in my bags there, but it's also on my bar. But if we look at it in the bags, the hearthstone is the thing that returns you to your home. Okay, so no matter where you are out in the world, you can use your hearthstone, and by the way, it's got a 30-minute countdown on it, or rather a 30-minute cooldown, that will cast, and it will actually zap us or teleport us back to your home location. Now, in this case, wherever you speak to an innkeeper and set your hearthstone is where you will be teleported back to. So seeing as we're going to be questing in this area, I obviously want to set my hearthstone here. So that, for example, if we are questing way over here or way up here or something, and I've got a hand in back at Duskhaven, I can simply hearth there by using my hearthstone. So I definitely want to set my hearthstone here. So let's accept that. And you get a bit of an effect there, and there we go. Now when we hover over this, it says returns you to Duskhaven, and it will actually return us right here into the inn, which is very cool. So that saves a lot of walking about. And I've just noticed that we've gone way over time. We won't cover these off yet, but we've also got some more trainers here. You can see we've got our first aid trainer, and we also have our cooking trainer. And of course, you'll remember them from here in our professions. There we go. Fishing, cooking and first aid are 2 of those secondary professions that we can learn, and we're definitely going to learn them. But like I said, we've gone way over time. Explaining all of the systems in the game, and as with our other Let's Plays, of course, we won't be doing this every single time we play. We'll be getting on with questing and getting out and about in the world and having a good look around this fantastic area. It's just that as we come across all these new features in the game, for those of you that haven't played before, I think it's well worth explaining how they all work. So next time we come, we'll learn these new professions. And then we'll, of course, make sure we pick up our skinning knife and our mining pickaxe, because otherwise we'll be stuck when we get out in the world. Oh, by the way, quickly before I go, here we go. You'll see there's been a new item we can add to our tracker on the minimap, which is Find Minerals. So I'm going to turn that on. You'll see the Find Minerals buff. Scroll down on the scrolling combat text there. We now will have any minerals or any deposits of ore that are out in the world will actually show up on the minimap, which is really, really handy. So make sure you turn that on in your filters on the minimap if you take mining, or if you take indeed herbalism, it'll actually say find herbs there rather than find minerals. So there you go, folks. I certainly hope you enjoyed that explanation. And come back and join us in the next episode where we'll quickly learn these new skills and get out into the world and start some questing for real and start leveling up and getting lots of new yummy skills and exploring this wonderful world of Warcraft. So in the meantime, it's me, Sambo, saying bye-bye, and hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.